As I was getting ready, I was wrestling with my own convictions, and my question for this morning is this: is it okay, especially as a Christian or even in a church, to be patriotic? Or is it a betrayal of the universal church worldwide? So if I talk about the greatness of our country and the constitutional freedoms we've had for over 250 years, is that expression alienate people who feel marginalized? Will it poison the gospel? That's a big question a lot of pastors have. So I'll just personally speak here for a second. I love this country. I love it. Here's a picture of me when I was 10 years old. So that's 10 years old. That's 1976. 200th anniversary. I, at the age of 10, made my whole family go to see Williamsburg, Virginia, because I was so patriotic. We actually took a trip to Williamsburg, Virginia, because I wanted to go. My mom and dad said, all right, let's go. I was raised with a patriotic zeal, and I think it's because of my history. Number one, I had a familiar legacy of love for country. My dad was an MP, and my grandfather fought in the Argonne Forest in 1918, World War I. That was the battle where over 26,000 Americans died, heaviest casualty in military history. He was even left with permanent scars from mustard gas, so I have a legacy. I would say just that our history just has a tradition of excellence. Like if you learned anything about our Constitution and how this country was formed, it was, to me, outstanding how we became a country. So over the years, I've read biographies on our founding fathers, the forming of our government, the deliberation over the Constitution. My mom would make me read the Federalist Papers, and I'd read it. I'd go, I don't understand it. She goes, you need to learn that. I studied all the battles of the European and Japanese in World War II, those battles. I was taught all of the patriotic songs by my dad. He loved them, like, you're a grand old flag, you're a high, and I'd walk around the house like that. I'm a Yankee Doodle Dan. Like, I knew it all. I know all those songs. So it's kind of in me. And then my town I grew up in was in the northeastern parts, Bay Village, Ohio. Everybody'd come. We'd have the biggest firework display you ever saw. And I can remember, like, even being 10, 11, we'd have a little carnival right in town, and right after the carnival, right over Lake Erie cliffs, you would see these massive fireworks. One time I even was in a canoe underneath the fireworks, and the shrapnel would fall on you. And it was great. That's America. Get a couple burns from fireworks. So, love of this country is buried deep in my bones. And I didn't even mention the Miracle on Ice. Let me tell you about that. But as a Christian, I am first and foremost compelled to honor and worship the living God. Jesus saved my life. Jesus is my King. And when I look at this book, I am forced from biblical eyes to say this: did you know all is not well in our country? There's problems. Our country is like this picture to me. It's like a thin piece of plywood of patriotic zeal, but underneath there's a lot of earthworms, crawling millipedes, burrowing maggots, greasy black beetles, and cockroaches. Kind of reminds me how we're supposed to deal with patriotism in America. The best way to view it, I think, is this old movie. It was made in 1939, and it's called Mr. Smith Goes to Washington. Frank Capra's the producer. Jimmy Stewart's the actor. His name is Jefferson Smith. He was a patriotic man, born and raised in Montana, and gets elected as senator. So he's traveling to Washington, D.C., the hub of it all, really excited. And while he was there, he realized, most of the politicians in D.C. are corrupt. This got me thinking, what if a minor prophet went to Washington, D.C.? What if Micah went to Washington? So if you could open up to the minor prophet, book of Micah. I know we already talked about it, but Not a lot. I want to talk about it today. And I choose Micah precisely because he is a small town guy from the backwaters of Judah going to the big city. He's actually, we're going to find out, from the city of Morsheth. Have you ever heard of Morsheth? Ever? It's kind of like telling somebody, I'm from Kent City. Where? It's kind of by Sparta. Oh, I know Sparta. Well, go north. Go north. You'll find Kent City. What did you say the name of it is? Kansas City? No. Micah's from Morsheth. He was sent by God to prophesy concerning the big cities, Samaria and Jerusalem. This book that you have in your hands was 25 years of him going to each of these cities. He had small messages, and it's compiled in a book. But we're going to begin in chapter 1 through 5. And we are going to look at this book, apply it to America, but we're going to find also hope in this book for America. You'll see what I mean, starting in verse 1. The word of the Lord that came to Micah of, there it is, Morsheth, the small town backwater of Judah. During the reigns of Jotham, who was a good king, Ahaz, a horrible king, and Hezekiah, a very good king, as a 25-year span, kings of Judah. The vision he saw concerning the big cities, Samaria up north and Jerusalem down south. So it's kind of like saying D.C. and L.A. That's where he's going. Hear you peoples, all of you, listen, earth, and all who live in it, that the sovereign Lord may bear witness against you, that the Lord from his holy temple. So God, as it says in Psalm 11, sits in his holy temple and looks around and judges the hearts of men. And this is an indictment on what he sees. Verse 3. Look, the Lord is coming from his dwelling place. Oh, good, God's coming. What's it going to be like? He comes down and treads on the heights of the earth. The mountains melt beneath him, and the valleys split apart. Like wax before the fire, like water rushing down a slope. All this is because of Jacob's transgression, because of the sins of the people of Israel. What is Jacob's transgression? Is it not Samaria, the big city? What's Judah's high place? Is it not Jerusalem? I think you could add in there, what is America's blight? Is it not Washington, D.C.? So what he's going to do is he's going to issue some indictments against the country. And in my mind, the Old Testament, Israel, has a lot in common with America. We're going to talk about that. However, we need to understand some differences because there's some major differences. For the next 10 minutes, I'm going to engage you in political theory, and I'm asking you to think. Because if you don't understand what I say, in a sense, the whole Old Testament doesn't make sense. So here's, first of all, Israel was a theocracy. A theocracy is a form of government where God is king. He's on the throne, and he's in charge of his people and the laws, the Mosaic codes. They were all subject to the laws of Moses. America is a democracy. It is designed to be a government ruled by the will of the people. So you could say we as the people are a small king, small K king. And if we're going to work together, we have to make some agreements as a society. We have to have a social contract or compact. We have two documents, the Bill of Rights and the Constitution. These have become the agreed upon law of the land. The Israelites had the law of Moses. We have the Constitution. I want to say something about the Constitution. It is not sacred, God-breathed writ. The law of Moses is, but it's been formed by what I'm going to talk about, years of experience, historical tradition, and mutual agreement by men and women of intelligence and goodwill. They worked hard to get our Constitution. And so you could say when it was completed, it's like having a good game plan. If you're going to play football, it's having your offensive coordinator and defensive coordinator figuring out how to have a good plan to go forward. That's what the Constitution is, to govern people to work in the real world. And they did a great job. That's why we're still existing with our freedoms. A very, very important thing is this: how each person views God. The Old Testament, Israel believed in Jehovah, the God of Moses. Moses goes to the burning bush. What am I supposed to tell the people? What's your name? I am that I am. I am the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And so, through the whole Old Testament, God was distinguishing himself against all of the polytheists, all of the other gods around the surrounding cultures, all the other idols. In fact, he wanted to show off. He wanted to show that he has all the power, he's completely unique, and he is great. So he used Israel to prove it. What about America? What about America? And this is where it gets very, very complicated. So as a little kid, before class started, I had to stand up, put my hand over my heart, and say, "One nation under God." Who is he? What is he like? Because God isn't just some nebulous thought. God is a person. So who is this God we are under? I am going to make an argument, and I want you to listen with me, and I could spend hours and hours on this, is that when people talk about God, I believe the overwhelming majority of U.S. citizens are presuming upon the qualities of the Judeo-Christian God. They're presuming upon them. Meaning, when people demand their rights, their privileges, and whenever they call for civility, and even loving the poor and the immigrant, they're actually resting on the Judeo-Christian God found in the Bible. So here, I'll keep breaking it down. You'll hear often people say we live in a Christian country. Actually, it's kind of true. Not because everyone goes to church. Not because we force people to adopt a certain set of denominational ideals. We're not an Anglican church. We're not an Episcopalian country. We are free in how we want to worship. It's because our laws and how we treat others is rooted in the Christian God, Jesus himself. So let me take it down a step further. The reason people are allowed to worship other gods like Allah, Vishnu, Buddha, and the atheistic non-God is because of the Christian value to extend grace and mercy to others, not to demand. Did you know, I want you to think about this. The majority of Muslim countries have no tolerance for other religions. Did you know that? Did you know that the heavily Hindu countries have anti-conversion laws if you're going to live there? That means you're not allowed to proselytize. You, in some Hindu countries, are not allowed to eat their cows. And often they don't have hospitals because you're messing with karma. Did you know in some Buddhist countries, if you accept Christian beliefs, you're banished from the family? And if atheists and agnostics were honest, if you're an atheist or agnostic, and if you're honest, when you call for justice in America, when you demand for equal rights, equity, whatever you say, that is not based on your philosophical reasoning. It's all because you're plagiarizing from Christianity and our values. People don't think like that. People have freedom in our country to believe as they wish because of the kindness of Christ. That's why, honestly. If you don't believe me, just wait till Sharia law takes some communities. They have no mercy. None. Zero. So you could say because of our belief in the biblical God, Because of Israel's belief in Jehovah, when you look at those nations compared to others, any rational person will say, they're blessed. You got to say we've been blessed. People want to get in this country. In the Old Testament, God gave His people covenantal promises. That's why blessing came to them. It was quite amazing. If people were faithful to God's promises, He poured out blessings like you can't believe. Sometimes the armies of Israel didn't even need to fight. God would fight on their behalf. They'd wake up and an army of 400,000 men are just dead. That's a pretty good deal. That's not bad. Now, in America, even though we are not under covenantal promises, we aren't like Israel was. The framers set up our society with natural law, and if we follow natural law reaps blessing. What do I mean by natural law? If you listen to what this writer said, I want you to think about it because this is the beauty of the Bible. Natural law believes God's created order is good, like a mother, father, work, if you're going to get money, like that kind of stuff. Hard work rewards you. Natural law believes God's created order, and the more a nation understands natural law and aligns policies to that law, the more flourishing will come to the nation. Some behaviors accord with and promote the fulfillment of nature, others hinder it and will actually corrupt it. And since God created our nature, He has given us the ability to reason and understand His law without special revelation. So this is what you could say. I believe the reason we are so blessed as compared to other countries is because our Constitution closely aligns to natural law. Finally, if you were a member of Israel, your duty was to exercise responsible obedience. As long as you followed the Almighty God in Israel, blessings would flow to you. If you didn't, punishment, sometimes capital punishment, you could be stoned. Banishment, you could be thrown out of the community. But there's always Levitical offerings to make restoration with your relationship with God. That was the norm. What about America and democracy? We have what's called invitational grace for all. God doesn't demand immediate compliance, like you won't be stoned for adultery, as you would in Israel. But He offers grace. He offers grace. He kindly, patiently allows people to make a choice to follow Him or reject Him. And if you reject Him, there will not be immediate destruction. Those who choose Him will receive favor. Undeserved. It's called grace, and it's incredible. Those who don't are only sustained because He's kind. And He has mercy and patience. But did you know it runs out? All right. Next question then. Is God obligated to bless and protect His people? As compared to the rest of the world, are we Americans the apple of God's eye, as Israel believed they were? And if we are, we're chosen, right? And if we're chosen, that means we're safe, regardless of what we do, right? That's what they believed during Micah's time. Look at Micah 2:6. This is how most of the prophets prophesied. They're upset with Micah because Micah was talking about there might be judgment. And here's what they said in Micah 2:6. Micah, do not prophesy. That's why it says do not prophesy. Do not prophesy, their prophets say. Do not prophesy about these things because disgrace will not overtake us. The NLT says disaster will not come our way. One commentator said about this verse, the corrupt leaders believed that the nation Israel was untouchable. He would never allow disaster or exile to happen to them, regardless how they treated the poor and vulnerable. So, in other words, they preferred comforting lies over truth. I think, truthfully, there's a similar attitude that permeates American souls. Many red, white, and blue wearing Americans think there's no way we're ever going to fail as a country. No way. We're America. You can hear it in our military leaders. Our military is the best in the world. Meaning, we're not going to lose. You can hear it in our technology nerds. Our technology is coveted by most of the earth. They want our patents. They want to know because we're so smart. And then have you ever seen, people in their souped up F-150s and they said, we're Americans, by golly. You don't touch Americans. Yes, sir. Disgrace won't overtake us. Throw me another bud. You know how it is. But here Micah, who speaks for God, is warning those who think they're fine to be very careful because sin and rebellion always invites judgment. Look at Micah 3:8. Again, he's speaking to Israel, whose prophets think we will never face disgrace. Here's what Micah says in chapter 3, verse 8. As for me, all those other prophets, they can say what they want. But as for me, I'm filled with power. I just can't hold it in. With the Spirit of the Lord and with His justice and might, to declare to Jacob his transgression and to Israel his sin. You could say it like this, like Micah is going, I'm burning up. I can't hold it anymore. I got to warn you or I will explode. What is he going to warn us about? Israel's problems. They got three major ones I find in this book. And I'm going to ask, I wonder, do we have these same problems? Because if we do, then we might be ripe for judgment. So what are these three problems? First one is this. What I find in Israel during Micah's day is that the leaders were corrupt and greedy. Look at chapter 3, 2 through 4. Can start in verse 1. Listen, you leaders of Jacob, you rulers of Israel. Should you not embrace justice? Verse 2. You who hate good and love evil, who tear the skin from my people and the flesh from their bones, meaning you're taking advantage of the people. Verse 3, who eat my people's flesh, strip off their skin and break their bones in pieces, who chop them up like meat for the pan, you just are destroying it. The Lord will cry out. They cry out to the Lord, but He won't answer them because the leaders are just bad. They're destroying the people. Look at verses 9 through 11. Hear this, you leaders of Jacob, you rulers of Israel, who despise justice and distort all that is right, who build Zion with bloodshed and Jerusalem with wickedness. Her leaders judge for a bribe, her priests for a price. So their rulings are based on how much money they're going to make. Look at chapter 7, verse 3. Talks about how the faithful have been swept away from the land. No one upright person remains. That's verse 2. Verse 3, both hands are skilled in doing evil. The ruler demands gifts. The judge accepts bribes. The powerful dictate what they desire. They all conspire together. So there's this systemic greed and corruption. That's what he's saying. What's interesting about the forming of our country, I'll tell you what's really interesting. The framers drew up the Constitution because they were terrified of this happening. They actually did not want leaders to be corrupt. So to help understand what the Constitution was saying, they wrote the Federalist Papers to help understand what the Constitution was getting at. And one Federalist paper, 51, had this statement. Listen to this statement. This is what our nation was founded on. They believe that ambition must be made to counteract ambition. This is an incredible little statement, but here's what it means. It's written by James Madison. Carries the idea that since politicians naturally desire power, the best way to prevent tyranny is to pit one branch's ambition against another branch's ambition. We call that checks and balances. So we have the executive, legislative, and judicial branch who all want power. but they will fight for that power, which keeps them all in check, keeps it balanced. Why is that important? Because from the richest to the poorest, sin is in all of us. We all want power, we all want money, and if it's unchecked, it's dangerous. I am worried that we as a country are beginning to forget this truth in leadership on every side of the aisle. Second question, or second criteria that Micah finds is that the prophets, the religious leaders of that day, really all they cared about was prosperity. Go to Micah chapter 2, verse 11. Look at this verse. Micah 2, verse 11. If a liar and a deceiver comes and says, I will prophesy for you plenty of wine and beer, that'd be just the prophet for this people. So if you want a leader that's religious leader, he's the guy that says, do whatever you want. It'll be great. Wine, beers, parties, and God doesn't care. Do what you want. Look at chapter 3, 5 and 7. This is what the Lord says. As for the prophets are the religious leaders who lead my people astray. They proclaim peace if they have something to eat. So if you pay them, they'll give you exactly what you want to hear. They'll tickle your ears. Just pay them well. Give them something to eat. But prepare to wage war against anyone who refuses to feed them. Therefore, night will come over you without visions, and darkness without divination. The sun will set for the prophets, and the day will go dark for them. Meaning God won't really give them visions anymore because they're all liars. The seers will be ashamed, and the diviners disgraced. They will all cover their faces because there's no answer from God. I wonder, do you think we have prosperity preachers in our country? I think we do. You know those blue-haired guys that say, can you say baby Jesus? Say baby Jesus. All you got to do is give me $1,000 seed and you'll be a millionaire. Just never mind what I do with that $1,000. I got about 3 houses, or tiny little house, $6 to $7 million. But just plant that seed, brother. It drives me crazy. How do people fall for that schlock? How are we so dumb? Like seriously, it drives me crazy. There's a very famous historian when America was built that his name is Alexis de Tocqueville. He was a French guy. And he said, man, America's democracy is working. And this was right before the French Revolution. They had a democracy, but everybody died. It's crazy. What is it about America that works? So he went to the colonies, spent time with them, and he said, here's the answer. Listen to this quote. Religion provides a necessary corrective when excessive forms of individualism and materialism make citizens indifferent to their public duties. The number one value people say of today is expressive individualism. You can be whoever you want to be. And he's saying, we need religion to kind of curb that attitude. Because if everybody wants their own thing, they're going to start hurting others to get what they want. He goes on. The only way to stop the majority from becoming a tyrant is a religion that protects democracy from its own worst tendencies. My worry is that we don't understand this second truth. People vote for, and we're now voting for, those candidates that should protect us from bad tendencies. We vote in candidates that give us what we want. And if the majority can vote politicians who take money that isn't theirs to give to them, that's what that bottom says thing. That's what religion should stop you from. This is where my A slide comes in. It concerns me that we don't see God the right way anymore. Earlier I said how a nation views God ultimately determines how that nation behaves. Over the last 30 years, the biblical view of God has morphed into a God made in the American's own image. Your average American does not view God in this way. The average American, according to theologians, views God as moralistic therapeutic deism. Let me explain that real quick. Moralistic therapeutic deism teaches that God is super nice. He's like a nice old grandpa. Hey, sonny, what can I get for you? And that nice old grandpa who doesn't see too well, you know, he really wants us just to be nice people. And we can lie to him all the time. And if we're nice, he'll be nice to us and he'll make us happy. That's what therapeutic means. I just want to be happy. Just want to have a good life. And so if we do good things, moralistic, he'll make us happy. And deism means what's kind of nice about God is he's far away, like a butler. All I got to do is call him. He'll come and get me what I want, and then he'll go back to his little butler shack. That's what deism is. Which means he's not much involved in our lives, but when we call, he'll come and give us exactly what we want. That is exactly the kind of politicians we're also voting for. Guys that will give us exactly what we want, but don't ask much from us. Remember John F. Kennedy? Ask not what your nation can do for you, but ask what you can do for your country. No, I don't want to. Just give me. Serve God. No, I don't want to, but he better call, because ask and you'll receive, seek and you'll find, knock and the door will be open. See, he's a little butler for me. Moralistic therapeutic deism. This is why in Micah 6:3, God's kind of upset with his people. Look at Micah 6:3. He says, actually beginning in verse 2, for the Lord has a case against his people. He's lodging a charge against Israel. It's an indictment. But verse 3, my people, what have I done to you? Like, what's wrong? Why don't you want to follow me? What have I done to you? How have I burdened you? Answer me. I brought you up out of Egypt. I redeemed you. You know, but you'd rather go to Balak, king of Moab kind of stuff. So that's the second one. The third one, there's one more tendency that we find is a culture of overt sensuality. You could say sexuality, but sensuality. That's all they really want. You can read it. I won't turn there, but Micah 5:10 through 15 and 6:16 talk about Ashtoreth poles. Those are poles of gods of basically fertility and sex. Talks about Omri, who also worshiped those same gods. And then it talks about Ahab's house. Who's Ahab? He had a wife. Does anybody know Ahab's wife's name? Jezebel. And Jezebel, according to Revelations, taught people how to commit sexual immorality. Question, do you think our country has a problem with this? I don't know. I want to just show you two numbers. I want you to wrap your mind around these two numbers. I want you to really consider what I'm saying, because it's actually very shocking. Less than 5%, greater than 40%. At the founding of our country, less than 5% of children were born out of wedlock. As our country stands, more than 40% of our children are born out of wedlock. Why? I think because of purity and monogamy no longer matter, because sex is our idol. Don't make that true of you, because what happens if these three characteristics start accumulating, we are becoming riper and riper for judgment. But it doesn't have to be this way. So another part of the book of Micah is to offer hope to those who don't want to live in this corruption and maggot-infested culture. You can escape it. Look at, he is going to talk about there is one nation, though, the true nation that is under God. How can you escape it? Look at this verse. It's in Micah 2:12, not 4:12. I messed up with my slides. If you'll forgive me, some people view slides as holy writ. It's a man's error prone. But this is Micah 2:12. I will surely gather all of you, Jacob. I will surely bring together the remnant of Israel. I will bring them together like sheep in a pen, like a flock in its pasture. The place will throng with people. What is this idea of a remnant? It's all through the Old Testament, and kind of it's the people of the New Testament. A remnant is defined as a small, faithful group of people who remain devoted to their beliefs despite the wickedness and rebellion around them. It's a small, faithful group of people. It says something in there. I will surely gather all of you. I will. Who will? Oh, there is a verse in Micah. I want you to turn there. Micah chapter 5. It's the last verse I have you look at. Micah 5, starting in verse 2. Who is the I in this passage? See if this reminds you of anything. This is Micah 5:2. I'll read it really slow. I'll read it with my December voice, and it might come. But you, Bethlehem, Ephrathah, though you are small, among the clans of Judah, out of you will come for me one who will be ruler over Israel, whose origins are from old, from ancient times. I wonder where I heard that before. Could it be Christmas? Yes. So, the person who's going to gather the remnant is the king that was born in Bethlehem with the Star of David above. Verse 3, therefore Israel will be abandoned until the time when she who is in labor bears a son. And the rest of his brothers return to join the Israelites. He will stand and shepherd his flock in the strength of the Lord, in the majesty of the name of the Lord his God. So, Micah 5, 2 through 4 is the true king. And those who follow this true king, those who follow his voice, those sheep who hear his voice, are granted full access to join the true nation under God. John 1, 11, 12 makes it clear. Here's what it says. To all who receive him, meaning Jesus Christ of Nazareth, this is who this is talking about. To all who receive him, to those who believe in his name, he gave the right to become children of God, to join this new nation. Children born not of natural descent, not of the nation Israel, not of America, not born of natural descent, nor of human decision because you joined the right church, or of a husband's will because your dad got you baptized, but you're born of God. This is the kingdom where we will be led by leaders who aren't corrupt, but they are proud to be the least. We will have prophets and priests who don't lie, but they have the law of God written on their heart. And we will dwell with holy saints who keep their lives pure to please a holy God. I'll be honest with you to close. I am proud to be an American. I am. But more importantly, I am humbled, overjoyed, honored, and baffled that I get to be an ambassador for the kingdom of heaven. I can't believe it. Because it is there I will find my delight. Question is that where you find yours? That's the question.